Picture this. You're scrolling through your laptop on a rainy Tuesday evening in October 2023, trying to surprise your parents for their 25th wedding anniversary. In your hands, you hold a shoebox filled with dusty VHS tapes labeled Rob and Linda's Wedding, June 14th, 1997. The handwriting is your mother's, careful and precise in blue ballpoint pen. You haven't watched these tapes in decades. Most people your age have never owned a VCR. But Jessica Williams, 28, marketing coordinator from Portland, Oregon, has just purchased a USB video capture device from Amazon for $47.99. She wants to create a digital montage, maybe upload it to a private YouTube channel where extended family can relive the memories. The first tape slides into the old Panasonic VCR with a mechanical thunk that sounds like archaeology. Static fills the screen. Then suddenly you're transported back to 1997. The video quality is grainy, typical of consumer camcorders from that era, a Sony Handycam probably, recording in high 8 format. The colors are oversaturated, the audio slightly out of sync. Your Uncle Danny is behind the camera, his voice narrating, "Testing, testing, Rob, say something to the camera." Your father, 26 years old with a full head of dark hair, waves awkwardly in his rented tuxedo. He looks impossibly young. The ceremony takes place at Laurelhurst Park, under a canopy of Douglas fir trees. Your mother walks down a makeshift aisle in a simple white dress from Nordstrom, carrying daisies instead of roses because the florist cancelled last minute. The videography is amateur but heartfelt. Uncle Danny pans across the small gathering of 40 guests, capturing aunts dabbing their eyes with tissues, cousins fidgeting in uncomfortable dress shoes, family friends you barely remember. Everyone looks frozen in time, like figures in a snow globe you've just shaken. Jessica connects the capture device to her MacBook Pro and begins the digitization process. Each tape takes roughly 90 minutes to transfer. She leaves the computer running overnight, occasionally checking the progress bar. By morning, she has 6 digital files, each roughly 4 GB in size. The quality is still poor, but now she can edit them using modern software. She downloads DaVinci Resolve, a professional editing program that's free for basic users. But Jessica wants to do something special. She's heard about AI enhancement tools that can improve old video footage. A quick Google search leads her to Topaz Video Enhance AI, software that uses machine learning algorithms to upscale and sharpen vintage recordings. The program costs $199, but there's a free trial. She downloads it immediately. The enhancement process is slow. Her laptop's fans whir like jet engines as the AI analyzes every frame, identifying faces, sharpening edges, reducing noise. The software claims it can improve video quality by up to 600%, filling in missing details through pattern recognition. It's trained on millions of images, learning to predict what grainy pixels probably represent. A blurry face becomes clearer. Background figures emerge from shadows. After 6 hours of processing, Jessica opens the enhanced footage. The difference is remarkable. Faces that were previously indistinct now show clear features. She can read the brand names on guests' clothing, see the exact pattern on her grandmother's brooch, count individual flower petals in the bouquet. It's like watching the past through high-definition glasses. She begins editing, trimming awkward moments, adding soft background music. During the reception scene, as Uncle Danny sweeps the camera across the dance floor, Jessica notices something odd. In the far corner, partially obscured by a decorative column, stands a young man she doesn't recognize. He's not dancing. He's not socializing. He's simply watching, hands in his pockets, wearing a navy blue suit that looks slightly too big for his frame. Jessica pauses the video. The AI enhancement has made his face remarkably clear. He appears to be in his early 20s with sandy brown hair and distinctive angular features. There's something familiar about him, but she can't place where she might have seen him before. She screenshots the frame and zooms in further. The young man is definitely not family. Jessica has studied every photo album, every family gathering video. She knows every cousin, every friend of the family, every +1 who attended the wedding. This person is a complete stranger. Yet he's there, at her parents' intimate celebration, looking like he belongs, but somehow separate from everyone else. She calls her mother. "Mom, I'm digitizing the wedding videos. There's someone I don't recognize in the reception footage. Young guy, navy suit, standing by the column during the dancing. Linda Williams, now 53 and working as a school principal, pauses for a long moment. Can you send me the screenshot?" Jessica texts the image immediately. Her phone rings back within 2 minutes. "Honey, I have no idea who that is." Her mother's voice carries a note of confusion that's unusual for someone typically so certain about everything. "Your father and I kept the guest list small. Everyone was either family or close friends. We didn't have any random +1s or last-minute additions." Could he have been someone's boyfriend? Maybe someone brought a date we forgot about? I don't think so. We were pretty strict about the RSVP count because of the catering budget. Every person was accounted for. Jessica stares at the screenshot on her laptop screen. The enhanced image shows incredible detail. She can see the young man's watch. Appears to be a Casio digital, common in the 1990s. His shoes are black leather, recently polished. His posture suggests he's uncomfortable, like someone attending a party where they don't know anyone. But if he didn't know anyone, how did he end up there? That evening, Jessica decides to investigate further. She opens the other wedding videos, scanning through hours of footage with new attention to background details. The mysterious guest appears in 3 separate scenes. During the ceremony, sitting in the back row, partially hidden behind Jessica's great-aunt Margaret. During the cocktail hour, standing near the gift table, appearing to study the wrapped presents. And during the reception, the dancing scene where she first noticed him. In each appearance, he's alone. He never speaks to other guests. He never approaches the bride and groom. He moves through the celebration like a ghost, present but not participating. The AI enhancement reveals micro-expressions on his face. He looks nervous, watchful, almost guilty. Jessica screenshots every appearance and creates a small digital folder labeled Unknown Guest. She studies the images like evidence in a criminal investigation, noting details, the way he holds his shoulders, the specific shade of his hair, a small scar above his left eyebrow that's only visible in the close-up shots. Something about his face continues to nag at her. She's seen him before, she's certain of it. But where? And more importantly, what was he doing at her parents' wedding? Here's where it gets strange. Jessica decides to reverse search the images using Google. She uploads the clearest screenshot to Google Images and waits for results. Most matches are generic stock photos of men in suits or random wedding photography. Nothing useful. She tries TinEye, another reverse image search engine. Again, no matches. But then she remembers reading about more advanced facial recognition tools. She's heard that some websites can identify people from photos, cross-referencing against social media profiles and public databases. It feels invasive, maybe even unethical, but her curiosity overwhelms her hesitation. She creates an account on PimEyes, a facial recognition search engine that scans billions of images across the internet. The service costs $29.99 for a month of unlimited searches. Jessica enters her credit card information and uploads the screenshot. The results load within seconds. 12 potential matches appear, with confidence percentages ranging from 67% to 94%. Most are clearly wrong. Different age, different ethnicity, completely different facial structure. But the second result, with a 91% confidence rating, stops Jessica's breathing. The match leads to a newspaper archive from the Berkeley Daily Californian, dated March 15, 1997. The headline reads, "Engineering Student Missing After Campus Party." Below it, a grainy black and white photograph shows the same face she's been staring at for hours. The caption, identifies him as Michael Thompson, 22, a senior mechanical engineering student at UC Berkeley who disappeared after leaving a fraternity party on March 8, 1997, 3 months before her parents' wedding. Jessica reads the article with growing disbelief. Michael Thompson was last seen leaving Sigma Chi around 11:47 p.m., telling friends he was walking back to his apartment on Durant Avenue. His roommate reported him missing when he failed to return by Sunday evening. His 1989 Honda Civic was found parked outside the fraternity house, keys still in the ignition. His wallet, containing $73 and his student ID, was discovered on the sidewalk 2 blocks away. Police investigated for 6 weeks. They interviewed friends, examined his academic records, contacted his estranged family in Ohio. Michael was a quiet student with good grades and no known enemies. He worked part-time at Radio Shack, saved money religiously, and planned to graduate in May with a job lined up at Boeing. There was no reason for him to disappear voluntarily, and no evidence of foul play. The case went cold by early May 1997. 1 month before Rob and Linda Williams' wedding in Portland, Oregon, Jessica prints the newspaper article and compares it side by side with her wedding screenshots. Even accounting for the difference in image quality and the 3-month time gap, it's clearly the same person. Same angular jawline, same distinctive eyebrows, same nervous expression. The AI enhancement has revealed enough detail to make the identification virtually certain, but this creates more questions than it answers. If Michael Thompson disappeared in Berkeley in March 1997, how was he attending a wedding in Portland in June? Was he hiding from something? Running from someone? Had he faked his own disappearance? Jessica spends the rest of the evening researching everything she can find about Michael Thompson. The missing person case generated limited media coverage beyond the initial newspaper report. His parents, divorced and living in different states, had given only brief statements to police. His college friends described him as introverted and studious, someone who preferred computer programming to parties, which made his presence at the fraternity event unusual in itself. She finds his academic records through a UC Berkeley alumni directory that's still accessible online. Michael was indeed a mechanical engineering student, maintaining a 3.7 GPA and scheduled to graduate in spring 1997. His thesis project involved computer-aided design software, specifically early applications of artificial intelligence in manufacturing processes. Ironic, considering that AI technology would eventually reveal his face decades later. The more Jessica learns, the more convinced she becomes that the person in her parents' wedding video is definitely Michael Thompson. But she still has no explanation for how or why he was there. She decides to call the Berkeley Police Department. After being transferred 3 times, she reaches Detective Ray Morrison, who's been with the department for 15 years and vaguely remembers the Thompson case from academy training exercises. He listens to Jessica's story with polite skepticism. "Ma'am, that case is 26 years old. The original investigators are retired. The physical evidence is in long-term storage and facial recognition from 1997 video footage." He trails off diplomatically. But what if he didn't actually go missing? What if he was hiding somewhere? Then he'd be guilty of filing a false police report, assuming he filed one himself. But honestly, after this long, there's no active investigation. If you have new evidence, you can file a report, but I can't promise anyone will follow up. Jessica hangs up feeling frustrated. She has what she believes is definitive proof that a missing person was alive and attending social events after his disappearance, but no one seems interested in pursuing it. That night, she can't sleep. She keeps thinking about Michael Thompson standing alone at her parents' wedding, looking uncomfortable and out of place. What brought him to Portland? How did he know about the event? Was he invited by someone, or did he crash the wedding? More disturbing, if he was alive in June 1997, what happened to him after that? The next morning brings a breakthrough that changes everything. Jessica decides to expand her search parameters, looking for any Michael Thompson who might have lived in Portland during 1997. She tries property records, voter registrations, employment databases, anything that might explain his presence at the wedding. Through a genealogy website that aggregates public records, she discovers something remarkable. A Michael A. Thompson was listed as a resident at 2847 S.E. Morrison Street in Portland from May 1997 through August 1997. The address is only 12 blocks from Laurelhurst Park, where the wedding took place. Jessica drives to the address immediately. It's a converted Victorian house that's been divided into apartments, typical student housing for Portland State University or Reed College. The current landlord, an elderly woman named Mrs. Patterson, has owned the property since 1985. She keeps meticulous records of every tenant, stored in filing cabinets in her basement office. Thompson, Mrs. Patterson mutters, flipping through manila folders labeled by year. 1997, you said? Here we go. Michael A. Thompson, apartment 3B. Lease from May 15th through August 31st. Paid first and last month's rent in cash, $450 per month, which was reasonable for that time. She pulls out a rental application written in careful handwriting. The signature matches examples of Michael Thompson's writing that Jessica found in online academic papers he'd published. But the emergency contact information is puzzling. Instead of parents or friends, he'd listed only a law office in downtown Portland. Did you ever meet him personally? Jessica asks. Oh yes, quiet young man, always paid rent on time, never caused problems, said he was taking some time off from college, maybe transfer to Portland State. He kept to himself mostly. I remember he had a computer set up in his apartment, very advanced for the time, said he was doing some kind of consulting work. Do you remember when he moved out? Mrs. Patterson checks her records again. That's odd. According to this, he never officially moved out. Just stopped paying rent in September, left all his furniture behind. I had to clear out the apartment myself in October. Jessica feels her pulse accelerating. What happened to his belongings? Well, I kept them in storage for about 6 months, hoping he'd come back for them. When he didn't, I donated most of it to Goodwill. But, she pauses thoughtfully, I think I still have a box or two in the basement. Things that seem too personal to donate. Let me check. 20 minutes later, Mrs. Patterson emerges from the basement, carrying a dusty cardboard box labeled M. Thompson, Personal Items. Inside, Jessica finds fragments of a life deliberately abandoned, a Berkeley class ring, several computer programming textbooks, a stack of floppy disks labeled with project names, and most significantly, a photograph. The photo shows Michael Thompson at what appears to be a college party, arm around a young woman with long blonde hair. On the back, someone has written, Mike and Sarah, Winter Formal, 1996. The woman's face is familiar, though Jessica can't immediately place where she's seen it before. She takes a photo of the picture with her iPhone and runs it through the same facial recognition software she used to identify Michael. This time, the results are immediate and devastating. The woman is Sarah Mitchell, now Sarah Williams, Jessica's mother. But that's impossible. Her mother's maiden name was Mitchell, and she's never mentioned knowing anyone named Michael Thompson. Jessica has heard the story of her parents' relationship dozens of times. They met at a coffee shop in Portland in 1995, dated for 2 years, got engaged at Christmas 1996. There was never any mention of previous boyfriends, especially not someone from Berkeley. Jessica stares at the photograph, trying to process what she's seeing. The timestamp on the back indicates it was taken in early 1996, just months before her parents supposedly met. Her mother's hair is different, longer and more styled than in any family photos Jessica remembers. Her smile looks genuine, comfortable, like someone who's known the photographer for a long time. The implications are staggering. Either her mother lied about her relationship history, or this is an extraordinary coincidence involving someone who looks exactly like her mother. But facial recognition software doesn't lie about bone structure and eye spacing. The match confidence is 96.7%. Jessica drives home in a daze, the photograph clutched in her passenger seat. She needs to confront her mother, but she's not sure how to begin such a conversation. How do you ask someone to explain why their supposedly unknown missing person ex-boyfriend appeared at their wedding? She calls her mother and asks if they can meet for coffee. Something in Jessica's tone must signal urgency, because Linda agrees immediately despite having a busy schedule at school. They meet at Powell's Books Cafe, a neutral location where they've had countless mother-daughter conversations over the years. Jessica orders a latte she doesn't want and sets the Berkeley photograph on the table between them. Her mother's reaction is immediate and unmistakable. Her face goes pale, her hands begin to shake slightly, and she looks around the cafe as if checking for escape routes. "Where did you get this?" "From Michael Thompson's old apartment." "Mom, you need to tell me what's going on." Linda Williams stares at the photograph for a long moment, then looks directly at her daughter. "Some things are better left buried, Jessica. Some stories don't have happy endings. He was at your wedding. A person you claim not to recognize was at your wedding, 3 months after he supposedly disappeared. I need to know why." Her mother is quiet for several minutes, stirring her coffee mechanically. Finally, she speaks in a voice Jessica has never heard before. Flat, careful, almost frightened. "Michael didn't disappear in Berkeley. He ran away. From me." The story that unfolds over the next hour rewrites Jessica's understanding of her family history. Linda and Michael had dated seriously during her senior year at Berkeley. She was studying psychology, he was in engineering. They met in a computer lab where she was struggling with statistical analysis software for her thesis research. He helped her learn the programs, and they began spending hours together every evening. By winter 1996, they were discussing marriage. Michael had received the Boeing job offer and was planning to move to Seattle after graduation. Linda was considering graduate school at University of Washington. Their future seemed perfectly aligned, but Linda was hiding something that she felt would destroy their relationship. She was already married. At age 19, during a rebellious phase in community college, she had married her high school boyfriend in a Las Vegas ceremony. The marriage lasted 6 weeks before they both realized it was a mistake, but they never filed for divorce. Her husband joined the army and was stationed overseas. They had no contact for years, and Linda convinced herself the marriage would somehow dissolve automatically. When Michael proposed at Christmas 1996, Linda panicked. She couldn't accept without revealing her legal status, but she couldn't bear to lose him either. She kept postponing their engagement, making excuses about wanting to finish school first, waiting for the right moment to tell him the truth. Meanwhile, she had been secretly working with a Portland lawyer to locate her first husband and initiate divorce proceedings. The process was complicated by his military service and their lack of communication. The paperwork was filed in February 1997, but Oregon law required a waiting period before the divorce could be finalized. Michael began to suspect something was wrong. Linda was evasive about future plans, avoided discussions about their relationship, and seemed increasingly anxious. In early March, he confronted her directly, demanding to know what she was hiding. She told him everything. His reaction was devastating, not because of the previous marriage itself, but because of her deception. Michael felt that everything about their relationship had been built on lies. If she couldn't trust him with something this fundamental, how could he trust her about anything else? The fight was brutal, Michael accused her of manipulating him, using him as emotional support while keeping him in limbo about their future. Linda tried to explain that she was working to resolve the situation, that her feelings for him were completely genuine. But the damage was done. Michael left her apartment that night and never contacted her again. He stopped attending classes, stopped showing up for work, ignored calls from friends. As far as everyone at Berkeley knew, he had simply vanished. But Linda knew better. 2 weeks after their breakup, she received a phone call at her apartment. No words were spoken, but she could hear familiar background noise, traffic sounds she recognized from childhood visits to Portland. Michael had left Berkeley and was somewhere in the city where she grew up. She hired a private investigator to confirm her suspicions. The PI found Michael living under his real name in the Morrison Street apartment, working as a freelance computer consultant for small businesses. He was using his technical skills to build websites and database systems, earning enough money to live quietly while avoiding any official employment that might flag him to friends or family looking for him. Linda's divorce was finalized in April 1997. She graduated from Berkeley in May and moved back to Portland, hoping to find Michael and repair their relationship. But her PI reported that Michael was actively avoiding any places where he might encounter her or her family. He had learned her parents' address, her friends' hangouts, even the grocery stores she preferred. He was living in the same city, but carefully maintaining complete separation. That's when she met Rob Williams. Rob was a customer at the coffee shop where Linda worked part-time while searching for Michael. He was charming, straightforward, emotionally available, everything that her relationship with Michael had become complicated and painful. Rob knew nothing about her previous marriage or her lost love. With him, she could start completely fresh. Their relationship developed quickly. Rob proposed in December 1996, and they began planning a small wedding for the following summer. Linda convinced herself that Michael was part of her past, that she needed to move forward with someone who could give her the stability and honesty she craved, but she never stopped thinking about him. In May 1997, as wedding plans progressed, Linda made a decision that would haunt her for decades. She wrote Michael a letter and had it delivered to his Morrison Street apartment. The letter explained everything. Her divorce was final, she was getting married to someone else in June, and she wanted him to know that despite everything, she had never stopped loving him. She included the wedding details, not as an invitation, but as a way to give him closure. She thought knowing that she was definitively moving on might help him find peace and return to his normal life. She never expected him to actually show up. On the morning of the wedding, Linda's maid of honor mentioned seeing an unfamiliar young man near the park, asking questions about the ceremony location and timing. Linda's heart stopped, but she convinced herself it was just a coincidental passerby. During the reception, she caught glimpses of Michael in her peripheral vision. He stayed at the edges of the gathering, never approaching directly, just observing from a distance. Linda was torn between joy at seeing him alive and terror that he might disrupt the celebration. She avoided looking directly at him, afraid that eye contact would shatter her composure completely. After the dancing began, she noticed he was gone. She never saw him again. The Morrison Street apartment was empty by September 1997. Michael had disappeared as thoroughly as he had from Berkeley, leaving no forwarding address or contact information. Linda's private investigator could find no trace of him anywhere in the Pacific Northwest. For 26 years, Linda Williams had wondered what happened to Michael Thompson. Whether he was still alive, whether he'd found happiness, whether he'd ever forgiven her for the deception that destroyed their relationship. She'd searched for him, periodically using early internet tools, but had never found any trace. She never told Rob about Michael's existence, partly to protect her marriage, and partly because she genuinely didn't know what had happened to him after the wedding. As far as anyone knew, Michael Thompson had disappeared in Berkeley in March 1997, and that was the end of his story. until Jessica's AI-enhanced wedding video brought him back from the past. Jessica sits in stunned silence as her mother finishes the story. Everything she believed about her parents' relationship, her family history, even her own existence, feels different now. She was born in 1995, which means she was conceived while her mother was still dating Michael Thompson. "Mom," she says carefully, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth." Linda nods, tears streaming down her face. "Is Rob my biological father?" The question hangs between them like a physical weight. Linda stares at her coffee cup for what feels like hours before responding. "I don't know." The words hit Jessica like a physical blow. Her entire identity, her understanding of who she is and where she came from, suddenly feels uncertain. She realizes that the AI technology that revealed Michael Thompson's face has also revealed a much more personal mystery. Have you ever considered finding out? DNA testing? Years ago, when the technology became available. But what would be the point? Rob has been your father in every way that matters. Knowing the biological truth wouldn't change that, but it might destroy our family. Jessica understands the logic, but it doesn't diminish the shock. She looks at the Berkeley photograph again, studying Michael Thompson's face with new intensity. Does she see anything of herself in his features? The angular jawline, perhaps? Or the spacing of his eyes? "I want to find him," she says suddenly. Jessica, no. It's been 26 years. He obviously doesn't want to be found. And even if you could locate him, what would you say? What would be the point? The point is that he might be my biological father. The point is that he's been listed as a missing person for over 2 decades when he's apparently been alive this whole time. The point is that you've been carrying this secret for my entire life, and maybe it's time for the truth to come out. Linda shakes her head vigorously. Some truths cause more harm than good. Your father, Rob, doesn't know about any of this. If this comes out, it could destroy our marriage. It could destroy our family. But Jessica's mind is already working through possibilities. She has Michael's real name, his approximate age, his educational background, his technical skills. She has recent facial recognition technology and access to databases that didn't exist in 1997. If Michael Thompson is still alive somewhere, she believes she can find him. That evening, Jessica begins the most intensive online investigation of her life. She starts by expanding her facial recognition searches to include social media platforms, professional networking sites, and public records databases across all 50 states. She discovers that Michael Thompson is an extremely common name, yielding thousands of potential matches. But she can narrow the search by age, education, and profession. She's looking for men born around 1974, 1975 with engineering degrees who work in technology-related fields. The process is tedious and often frustrating. Most facial recognition matches are false positives. Men who share some physical characteristics with the 1997 Michael Thompson, but are clearly different people. Others are genuine matches to the same person, but the photos are too old or low quality to be definitively confirmed. After 3 days of searching, Jessica finds something promising. A LinkedIn profile for a Michael A. Thompson who works as a senior software engineer at a tech company in Austin, Texas. His profile photo shows a man in his late 40s with graying hair and a fuller face than the young man in the wedding video. But the bone structure appears consistent. His employment history includes several technology companies in different states, with gaps that could correspond to periods of deliberate anonymity. Most significantly, his education section lists UC Berkeley, mechanical engineering, but shows the degree as completed in 2003, not 1997. This could indicate that he returned to finish his education after years away. Jessica runs the LinkedIn photo through multiple facial recognition programs. The results are mixed. Confidence levels range from 67% to 84%, which is high enough to be promising, but not definitive enough to be certain. The age progression makes comparison difficult, but several key facial features appear consistent. She creates a fake LinkedIn profile and sends Michael A. Thompson a connection request with a generic message about networking in the tech industry. If this is the right person, she figures he'll either accept and she can find a way to approach him indirectly, or he'll ignore the request and she'll know to look elsewhere. To her surprise, he accepts the connection within 24 hours. Jessica spends another day crafting the perfect message. She needs to reveal enough information to get his attention without frightening him away. After a dozen drafts, she settles on a direct approach. "Hi, Michael. I hope you don't mind me reaching out directly. I'm researching a missing person case from 1997 involving someone with your name who disappeared from UC Berkeley. I have reason to believe this person may have been living in Portland around the time of his disappearance. If you have any information that might be helpful, or if you know someone who might, I'd be grateful for any assistance. This is for a family matter, not legal or law enforcement purposes. Thank you for your time." She sends the message and waits. The response comes 6 hours later, and it's not at all what she expected. "Jessica Williams, I wondered when someone would finally piece it together. Your mother always said you were smart. We should talk." Jessica stares at the message, her hands shaking. He knows who she is. He's been expecting contact from her family. The implications are staggering. Not only is this definitely the right Michael Thompson, but he's been aware of her existence all along. She responds immediately. "Can we schedule a phone call?" His reply is almost instant. "Saturday, 2 p.m. Pacific, I'll call you." He includes a phone number with a 5112 area code. Austin, Texas, consistent with his LinkedIn profile. Jessica spends the next 2 days in a state of nervous anticipation. She researches everything she can find about Michael A. Thompson's professional life over the past 26 years. His career trajectory is impressive, but erratic. He's worked for tech companies in Austin, Denver, Seattle, and San Francisco, never staying anywhere for more than 3 or 4 years. His specialties are database architecture and security systems, skills that would certainly help someone maintain anonymity if desired. She also researches Texas public records and discovers that Michael owns a house in a quiet Austin suburb purchased in 2018. Property records show it's a modest 3-bedroom home valued at around $300,000. He appears to live alone, with no public records indicating marriage or children. Saturday arrives with unprecedented slowness. Jessica has prepared a list of questions, but she's not sure where to begin. At exactly 2 p.m., her phone rings with the Austin number. "Hello, Jessica." The voice is deeper than she expected, with just a trace of a Texas accent that wasn't there in 1997. "I've been wondering about this conversation for a very long time. You know who I am. I've known about you since you were born. I've been following your family from a distance for 26 years. I know about your college graduation, your job in marketing, your parents' anniversary last month. I know you recently digitized your parents' wedding video and enhanced it with AI software. The revelation is simultaneously fascinating and terrifying. You've been watching us? Not watching. Monitoring. There's a difference. I wanted to make sure you were all safe and happy, but I never interfered. I never made contact. Until now." Jessica takes a deep breath. "Are you my biological father?" Michael is quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. Your mother and I were together during the time frame when you would have been conceived. But so was Rob, apparently. The timing makes both possibilities equally likely. Have you ever wanted to find out for sure? Every day for 26 years, but your mother made it clear that she wanted me completely out of your lives. I respected that decision, even though it was the hardest thing I've ever done." Jessica feels tears beginning to form. Why did you come to the wedding? Because I was young and stupid and heartbroken. I wanted to see her one last time. I wanted to make sure she was really happy with her choice. And I guess I wanted her to know that I was still alive, still thinking about her. But you never spoke to her. No, I could see that she was genuinely happy. Rob clearly adored her, and she seemed at peace in a way she never was with me. Our relationship was always complicated, always fraught with secrets and uncertainty. With Rob, she could just be herself. I realized that approaching her would only cause pain for everyone involved. So you just left? I left Portland entirely. I spent the next few years moving around, building a new identity, establishing a career under my real name again. I wanted to make sure that if anyone ever went looking for the Michael Thompson who disappeared from Berkeley, they would find a clean trail to follow. Jessica is struggling to process everything she's hearing. But why didn't you contact the police? Let them know you weren't actually missing? Because I wasn't ready to face the questions that would come with reappearing. My parents, my friends, the university, everyone wanted explanations I wasn't prepared to give. It was easier to start over somewhere else. What about your family? Your parents must have been devastated. Michael's voice becomes quieter, more pained. My parents were divorced and dealing with their own problems. We weren't close. I know my disappearance hurt them, but I convinced myself they'd be better off without the complications I brought to their lives. I was selfish, Jessica. I made decisions based on my own emotional needs without considering the broader impact. The conversation continues for over an hour. Michael describes his life over the past 26 years, the various cities he's lived in, the different jobs he's held, the relationships he's attempted and abandoned because he could never fully commit to anyone while carrying the secret of his past. He's built a successful career and accumulated modest wealth, but he's never found the kind of happiness and stability that Rob and Linda achieved. Do you regret it? Jessica asks. Disappearing, I mean. Every day. But I don't know what I would have done differently. Your mother and I brought out both the best and worst in each other. We might have been happy, or we might have destroyed each other entirely. There's no way to know. Would you like to meet? In person? Michael hesitates. I've thought about that constantly, but I'm not sure it would be fair to your parents. Your mother has built a life based on the assumption that I was gone forever. Your father has been your dad in every meaningful way. What purpose would it serve to disrupt that now? It would serve the purpose of truth, and maybe it would give you some peace. Or it might destroy everything your parents have built together. Jessica understands his concern, but she's not ready to give up. What if we could do it carefully? What if I talked to them first, prepared them? Your mother already knows you've been researching this. She's probably terrified about what you might discover. He's right, Jessica realizes. Her mother has been anxious and evasive since their coffee shop conversation. She's probably been dreading exactly this phone call. Michael, can I ask you something personal? After everything we've discussed, I think we're past the point of avoiding personal questions. Do you think about what it would have been like if I am your daughter? The line is quiet for so long that Jessica wonders if the call has been disconnected. Finally, Michael speaks, and his voice is thick with emotion. Every birthday, every Christmas, every graduation photo your mother posted on Facebook before she made her profile private. I've imagined what it would be like to be part of your life, to have watched you grow up, to have been there for the important moments. But I've also seen how happy you are with Rob as your father. That matters more than my regrets. Jessica feels her own emotions overwhelming her. She's talking to a man who might be her biological father, who has loved her from a distance for her entire life, who made the ultimate sacrifice by staying away to preserve her family's happiness. Would you be willing to take a DNA test, not to disrupt anything, just to know for sure? Michael considers this carefully. If you really want to know, yes. But Jessica, you need to understand something. Regardless of what the test shows, Rob Williams is your father. He raised you, loved you, shaped who you became. Biology is just one factor in parenthood, and it's not the most important one. They agree to arrange DNA testing through a private laboratory that can ensure confidentiality. Michael will submit his sample in Austin, Jessica will submit hers in Portland, and they'll receive results within 2 weeks. Whatever those results show, they'll decide together how to proceed. After the call ends, Jessica sits in her apartment for hours, staring at the enhanced wedding video, still frozen on her laptop screen. The AI technology that seemed so exciting just days ago now feels like a tool that has fundamentally altered her understanding of reality. She's opened a door that can never be closed, revealed secrets that will change her family forever. She calls her mother that evening and explains the conversation with Michael. Linda's reaction is exactly what Jessica expected: terror mixed with relief that the truth is finally emerging. He's been watching us all these years. Not watching. He says monitoring, making sure we were safe and happy, but never interfering. God, Jessica, I don't know how to process this. I don't know how to tell your father. Maybe we should wait for the DNA results before we decide anything. And if the test shows Michael is your biological father, what then? Jessica doesn't have a good answer. The implications are staggering for everyone involved. Rob would learn that his wife had been married before and had never told him, that she'd had a serious relationship she'd completely concealed, and that his daughter might not be biologically his. Michael would face the choice of remaining in exile or attempting to build some kind of relationship with a daughter he'd never known. Linda would have to confront 26 years of secrets and their consequences. But Jessica also realizes that the alternative, living with uncertainty and deception forever, might be worse than facing difficult truths. The DNA testing process is surprisingly simple. Jessica visits a LabCorp facility in Portland and provides a saliva sample. Michael does the same in Austin. The samples are sent to a private laboratory that specializes in paternity testing, with results promised within 10 to 14 business days. During the waiting period, Jessica struggles to maintain normal routines. She goes to work, meets friends for drinks, attends family dinners, all while carrying the weight of knowledge that could destroy everything familiar about her life. She finds herself studying her reflection in mirrors, looking for traces of Michael Thompson in her features. She Googles photos of Rob from 1995 and compares them to the enhanced images of Michael, searching for clues about which man she resembles more. The uncertainty is agonizing. 8 days after submitting the samples, Jessica receives an email from the testing laboratory. The subject line reads, "Paternity test results. Case Draw PT789234. Her hands shake as she opens the attachment. The report is clinical and precise. Probability of paternity between Michael A. Thompson and Jessica M. Williams. 99.97%. In genetic terms, this is as close to certainty as science can provide. Michael Thompson is her biological father. Jessica stares at the numbers on her laptop screen, trying to process what this means. She's lived 28 years believing Rob Williams was her father, building her identity around that relationship, carrying his name and assuming his heritage. Now she discovers that half her genetic material comes from a man who disappeared before she was born, who has lived in exile for her entire life, who has loved her from a distance while she remained completely unaware of his existence. She forwards the results to Michael with a simple message: "We need to talk." He calls within an hour. "How are you feeling?" he asks, and she can hear the carefully controlled emotion in his voice. "I don't know. Confused, overwhelmed, angry at my mother for lying all these years, sad for you, for everything you've missed, terrified about what this means for my family. Jessica, I want you to know that nothing has to change. This information can stay between us if that's what you decide. I've survived 26 years without being part of your life. I can continue to do that if it's better for everyone." But Jessica realizes she doesn't want that. Now that she knows the truth, she wants to know her biological father. She wants to understand where half of her genetic traits and personality characteristics come from. She wants to hear stories about his family, his childhood, his dreams and disappointments. She wants to fill in the gaps that have existed her entire life without her knowing it. "I want to meet you," she says, "in person. I want to know who you are." "Are you sure?" "This can't be undone, Jessica. Once we meet, once we establish a relationship, it changes everything for your family." "It's already changed. The moment I enhanced that wedding video, everything changed. We can't go back to the way things were." They arranged to meet the following weekend in Seattle, a neutral location that's relatively convenient for both of them. Jessica tells her parents she's taking a weekend trip to visit college friends, unable to face the conversation about Michael until she's had a chance to process her own feelings about meeting him. Friday evening, Jessica drives north on I-5 towards Seattle, her emotions cycling between excitement and terror. She's about to meet her biological father for the first time since she was an infant. She has no idea what to expect, how to behave, or what kind of relationship might be possible between them. They've agreed to meet at Pike Place Market on Saturday morning, in front of the original Starbucks. Jessica arrives early and positions herself where she can observe the crowd. At exactly 10 a.m., she sees him approaching, a man in his late 40s with graying brown hair, wearing jeans and a navy blue sweater. He's taller than she expected, maybe 6'2", with the same angular features she recognizes from the wedding video, but softened by age and experience. He spots her immediately, probably because she's been unconsciously studying every person who walks by. Their eyes meet across the crowded market, and Jessica feels a jolt of recognition that has nothing to do with the photographs she's seen. There's something familiar about his expression, his posture, the way he moves through space. They approach each other cautiously, like two people meeting for a blind date who aren't sure they'll recognize each other. When they're close enough to speak, Michael stops and simply looks at her for a long moment. "You have your mother's eyes," he says finally, "but everything else, I can see myself in your face." Jessica studies him with equal intensity. Now that she knows to look for it, the resemblance is unmistakable. The shape of her nose, the line of her jaw, the way she holds her shoulders, all inherited from this man she's never known. "This is really strange," she admits, "stranger than strange. I've imagined this moment thousands of times, but I never thought it would actually happen." They find a quiet coffee shop away from the market crowds and begin the awkward process of getting to know each other. Michael tells her about his childhood in Ohio, his parents' difficult divorce, his early fascination with computers and engineering. Jessica shares stories about her own childhood, her relationship with Rob, her career aspirations and personal interests. As the conversation progresses, they discover unexpected connections. They both have the same dry sense of humor, the same tendency to analyze problems from multiple angles before making decisions, the same habit of collecting interesting facts from random sources. Jessica realizes that personality traits she'd always attributed to her upbringing might actually be genetic inheritance from Michael. "What was my mother like when you knew her?" Jessica asks. Michael smiles, and for a moment he looks like the young man from the wedding video. Brilliant. Passionate about everything she cared about. She had this way of seeing patterns in human behavior that made her incredibly insightful. She could read people's motivations and emotions in ways that seemed almost supernatural. She's still like that. Sometimes it's annoying how accurately she can predict what I'm going to do. She was also stubborn as hell, and terrible at admitting when she was wrong. Is that still true? Jessica laughs. Definitely. Some things never change. They spend 6 hours together, walking around Seattle, sharing meals, filling in 28 years of missed conversations. Michael shows her photos on his phone of places he's lived, projects he's worked on, adventures he's had. Jessica shares pictures from her own life, college graduation, career milestones, travel experiences, family celebrations that Michael was never part of. By evening, they've established a tentative but genuine connection. Jessica can see why her mother fell in love with Michael, and she can also understand why their relationship became too complicated to sustain. There's an intensity about him that's both appealing and exhausting, a tendency to overthink and analyze that probably made the deception about her previous marriage even more devastating. As they prepare to part ways, Michael asks the question that's been hanging between them all day. What happens now? With your parents, I mean. Jessica has been dreading this moment. I have to tell them. I can't keep this secret anymore. Your father is going to be devastated. Rob is still my father. That's not going to change, but he deserves to know the truth, and he deserves to decide for himself how to handle it. Michael nods reluctantly. If you need me to talk to them, to explain my side of the story, I'm willing to do that. I owe them both an apology for the deception that started all of this. They exchange contact information and agree to maintain regular communication while Jessica figures out how to navigate the family situation. Michael drives back to Austin with mixed emotions. Joy at finally meeting his daughter, but anxiety about the chaos that revelation might bring to the Williams family. Jessica returns to Portland on Sunday evening and immediately calls her parents to arrange a family meeting. She tells them she has something important to discuss, something that affects all of them. They agree to meet Monday evening after Rob gets home from work. Jessica spends Monday preparing for the most difficult conversation of her life. She prints copies of the DNA test results, organizes the photographs and documents she's collected, and rehearses different ways to explain the situation. No matter how she approaches it, there's no way to make this news easy to hear. Monday evening arrives with the weight of inevitability. Jessica sits in her parents' living room, surrounded by decades of family photos that now feel different to her. Pictures of her with Rob at various ages, vacation memories, holiday celebrations, all genuine expressions of love and family, but built on incomplete information about her genetic heritage. She begins with the enhanced wedding video, explaining how AI technology revealed Michael's presence at their celebration. Her parents listen with growing alarm as she describes her investigation, her discovery of Michael's identity, her phone conversations with him, and finally, the DNA test results. When she finishes, the room is completely silent. Rob stares at the DNA report as if the numbers might change if he looks at them long enough. Linda sits with her face in her hands, finally confronting the consequences of secrets she's carried for decades. Rob speaks first, his voice carefully controlled. So let me make sure I understand this. You were married to someone else when we met. You had a serious relationship with someone who was legally considered a missing person. You wrote him a letter inviting him to our wedding, and our daughter is biologically his child. Rob, I'm not finished. His tone is sharper than Jessica has ever heard. For 26 years, you let me believe I was Jessica's biological father. You let me form that bond, build that identity, base my entire sense of myself as a parent on something that wasn't true. You are her father, Linda insists. Biology doesn't change that. But honesty might have changed everything. If I'd known the truth from the beginning, I could have made an informed decision about our relationship. Instead, you made that choice for me. Jessica realizes that her father's anger isn't really about the paternity issue. It's about the deception. Rob is a man who values honesty and straightforward communication above almost everything else. Learning that his marriage began with fundamental lies is probably more devastating than learning that his daughter isn't biologically his. Dad, Jessica says carefully, I need you to know that this doesn't change anything about our relationship. You raised me. You were there for every important moment of my life. You taught me how to ride a bike, helped me with homework, walked me to my first day of school. Michael Thompson may have contributed half my DNA, but you're my father, in every way that matters. Rob looks at her with tears in his eyes. I know that intellectually, but emotionally, this is going to take time to process. The conversation continues for hours. Linda explains the full story of her relationship with Michael, her previous marriage, her reasons for keeping these secrets. Rob asks difficult questions about trust, honesty, and whether their entire marriage has been built on deception. Jessica tries to mediate between them while dealing with her own confusion about identity and family loyalty. By the end of the evening, they've reached a tentative resolution. Rob needs time to process the revelations, but he's committed to working through the issues with Linda. Jessica will maintain contact with Michael, but carefully and gradually, without forcing him into family situations where he might not be welcome. Most importantly, they all agree that their fundamental relationships with each other haven't changed. Rob is still Jessica's father, Linda is still his wife, and they're still a family. Just one with a more complicated history than they'd previously understood. Over the following months, Jessica develops a long-distance relationship with Michael through phone calls, emails, and occasional visits. She learns about his extended family in Ohio, his professional accomplishments, his hobbies and interests. Michael, in turn, gets to know the daughter he'd only observed from afar, sharing her struggles and celebrations as she navigates her career and personal life. The relationship isn't without challenges. There's an awkwardness that comes from trying to build a parent-child bond with a fully grown adult. Michael sometimes overcompensates, trying to make up for 28 years of absence with excessive attention and concern. Jessica occasionally feels guilty about the time she spends with him, as if she's somehow betraying Rob by developing affection for her biological father. But gradually, they find a comfortable dynamic. Michael becomes something like a favorite uncle, someone Jessica enjoys talking to, someone who offers advice and support, someone who cares about her welfare but doesn't try to replace the father who actually raised her. Rob and Linda work through their marital issues with the help of a counselor. The process is difficult and sometimes painful, but they ultimately decide that their 26 years of genuine love and partnership are more important than the deceptions that preceded them. Rob comes to understand that Linda's secrecy came from fear rather than malice, and Linda learns to appreciate how her choices affected not just her own life, but the lives of everyone around her. 6 months after the initial revelation, the Williams family has reached a new equilibrium. They're still processing the emotional implications of the truth, but they've found ways to incorporate Michael into their extended family without destroying the relationships that were already there. Jessica often reflects on the chain of events that led to these discoveries. If she hadn't decided to digitize the wedding videos, if she hadn't used AI enhancement software, if she hadn't been curious about an unfamiliar face in the background, Michael Thompson might have remained a missing person forever, and the Williams family might have continued living with incomplete knowledge of their own history. The technology that revealed these secrets was designed to improve video quality, not to solve cold cases or reunite families. But artificial intelligence doesn't distinguish between intended and unintended consequences. It simply processes data and reveals patterns, regardless of whether those patterns contain information people want to know. Jessica's story illustrates both the power and the danger of AI technology in modern life. Facial recognition software can identify missing persons, reunite lost family members, and solve decades-old mysteries. But it can also expose secrets that people worked hard to keep buried, destroy carefully constructed identities, and force confrontations with uncomfortable truths. The same algorithms that helped Jessica find her biological father could be used by others for less benevolent purposes. Surveillance systems could track individuals who don't want to be found. Employers could identify job applicants who are trying to escape problematic pasts. Governments could monitor citizens who believe they're living anonymously. Jessica's enhanced wedding video revealed that privacy, as her parents' generation understood it, no longer exists. Every image captured, every document created, every digital footprint left behind becomes permanent evidence that can be analyzed and cross-referenced years or decades later. The assumption that old secrets will stay buried is no longer valid in an age of artificial intelligence and unlimited data storage. But the story also reveals the human dimension of these technological capabilities. Behind every facial recognition match, every data correlation, every AI-generated insight, there are real people with complex emotions and relationships. Technology can reveal facts, but it can't predict how those facts will affect the people involved. Jessica Williams used artificial intelligence to solve a 26-year-old missing person case and discover her own genetic heritage. But the most important parts of her story, the love between parents and children, the importance of honesty in relationships, the challenge of integrating new information into existing family structures, had nothing to do with technology. Those are fundamentally human problems that require human solutions. In the end, Jessica's family survived the revelation of their secrets because they chose love over fear, truth over comfortable deception, and complicated reality over simple illusion. The AI that exposed their hidden history also gave them the opportunity to build more honest relationships with each other. The wedding video that started it all now sits in Jessica's digital archive, enhanced and preserved for future generations. But she's also made copies of the original grainy footage, because sometimes the truth isn't in the details that technology can reveal, but in the moments people chose to capture, the love they chose to celebrate, and the families they chose to build, regardless of whose DNA contributed to the mix. The question that haunts Jessica isn't whether AI technology is good or bad, helpful or dangerous. The question is whether society is prepared for a world where every secret can potentially be revealed, every hidden connection exposed, every carefully constructed identity dismantled by algorithms that see patterns humans prefer to ignore. Her story suggests that the answer isn't to avoid the technology, but to build relationships strong enough to survive the truth it might reveal. In an age of artificial intelligence, the most important human skill might be the ability to love people not despite their secrets, but because of their willingness to share them.